Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Hello friends, we'll be discussing certain details about what purchase book means, how is the format, and we'll go ahead with the illustration in it. So when we talk about purchase book, it is again another kind of subsidiary book that we hold. Now, this specific purchase book specifically records only credit transactions. Now, when we talk about credit transactions, that means all the transactions which are purchased on either credit or if there is a liability on it. All the cash transactions that are purchase related will be recorded in the cash book itself. However, this specific book will only record transactions which are on credit. We have mentioned down certain points regarding this. Just let's go ahead and note it down for your reference. Now, this specific purchase book records transaction only related to credit. Hence, when we talk about credit transactions, it will be a part of purchase book. The other names for this specific book is also known as invoice book or bought book or purchase journal. So when we talk about purchase book and if the question states about prepare an invoice book or prepare a bought book or prepare a purchase journal, that means you have to prepare a purchase book itself. So these are the other names for it. A point to be mentioned here is if these transactions are recorded in purchase book, then you don't have to journalize them or you don't have to record them in journals. So if they're recorded in journals, you don't have to put them in purchase book. However, if they're not recorded in journals, that means it has been recorded in purchase book. So if it is already recorded in purchase book, you need not go ahead further and add them into journalizing things. Let's figure out the next part. As we have stated that cash transactions are a part of cash book itself. However, the credit or liability transactions are a part of purchase book. So if there is any purchase of goods that has been done, it will be a part or it will further categorize into cash or credit. If it is in cash, then it will go under cash book. If it is in credit, then it will go under purchase book. Let's figure out few more information on this part. It consists of 5 columns. Basically, these have been jotted down here. Let's go through them. It consists of date, details of the creditor, invoice number, amount, and the ledger folio. So these are the only 5 columns that are supposed to be prepared when we talk about credit purchase book. There's one more point that you have to mention, which has been mentioned down here. Just keep this thing in mind. This specific book does not record any kind of transactions which refers to purchase of asset. So if there is any purchase of asset that has been done, it won't be recorded in this specific book. Only those transactions will be recorded which are referred to non-asset parts or purchase of goods and stationery. Hence, it will be mentioned under this part, or you have to keep in mind that any purchase of asset is not being a part of purchase book. It will be directly recorded under the asset category itself. Now let's go ahead with the format of this specific purchase book. The first column states of date. That means the year and the transaction when this specific transaction will take place or has taken place. The invoice number is the next category that will be provided in the question. Now that we have already mentioned that we have only 5 columns, this is the second column. The third column will be the name of the supplier or the details of the creditor. The fourth column will be ledger folio. That means the number from which ledger it has been taken into this specific category. And the last transaction or the last column will be amount. So this is the specific format that you need to follow whenever you're preparing a purchase book. Post this, if you have to prepare any kind of illustration or any kind of transaction, you need to go through this specific format itself. Now we have an illustration for your reference. We'll go ahead and go through that illustration first and then prepare one specific purchase book transaction. Let's go ahead and prepare that illustration. Now there is Mrs. Mac and Company. Mrs. Mac and Company is a sports equipment dealer or a sports material dealer. Now there are certain transactions mentioned down here. We'll take this as a month of Jan. Jan 2019, it refers to, there are no dates given, hence we'll be taking only the order number, that is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Hence, we'll be mentioning down the date as 1st of Jan, 2nd of Jan, 3rd of Jan, 4th of Jan, 5th of Jan and so on. Hence, the month and the year has been specified. We'll go through each transaction and then see how this specific transaction is supposed to be recorded. Purchase from ABC Limited 2000 balls at rupees 5 each per piece. That means 2000 balls were taken on credit from Messrs ABC Limited at rupees 5 each. Hence, we have to record this transaction as this is a part of credit. Next transaction refers to purchase of 100 baht from Messrs XYZ Limited at rupees 250 each. Let's go on to the third transaction. That transaction refers to purchase of 200 skates from Messrs Con Limited for rupees 1 lakh. Hence, it has been mentioned that the total of 200 skates is for rupees 1 lakh itself. Let's go ahead and figure out what do we have in the next transaction. Again, the next transaction refers to 200 chessboards being purchased at rupees 2000. Here, we haven't mentioned each. If it would have been mentioned each, then you had to multiply the number of chessboards into the amount of per chessboard. Hence, we'll be calculating the total amount as 2000 itself. That means total of 200 chessboards amounts to rupees 2000. Let's figure out the last transaction mentioned down here. Purchase from Con Limited 100 skates for rupees 40,000. So these are the transactions. Let's prepare the format and let's go ahead with the illustration and preparation of it. So we have already prepared the format. Let's go ahead with the first transaction. Now this refers to the year 2019, hence we'll be mentioning 2019 here at the start of the answer. As the invoice number is not given in the question, hence we'll be crossing it out. But in case if you have invoice number in the question mentioned there, you have to mention the invoice number in front of it. In case if it is not mentioned, you can just leave it blank. Now the first transaction refers to some purchase amount. Hence we'll go through that transaction again and we'll mention down the transaction. It has been taken or it has been purchased from one specific vendor, which will be mentioned in the name of supplier details or the details of supplier column. Let's go ahead and see the first transaction. So we have purchased 2000 balls from ABC Limited at rupees 5 each. The total of it amounting to 10,000 has been mentioned in the amount column. Let's figure out the next transaction. As we have already mentioned that we haven't or we didn't get the dates in the question, hence we'll be mentioning 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Jan as of. Let's go on to the second transaction, which will refer to 2nd of Jan. Hundred bats at rupees 250 each were taken from XYZ Limited. Hence, the total amount amounts to rupees 250 each. Now, each bat is amounting to 250 each, and there were 100 total that were taken. So, the total amount is 25,000 that has been mentioned in the amount column. Let's go on to the third part. The third transaction refers to 200 skates being taken from Con Limited for rupees 1 lakh. That means the total amount can be directly posted in the amount column, which is 1 lakh, and the amount or probably the description will be Con Limited 200 skates. Let's go on to the fourth transaction. Now the next transaction refers to 200 chessboards taken from ABC Limited for rupees 2000. Hence, here also we have 2000 as the total amount which can be already or which can be fixed up in amount column. That means 2000 directly can be mentioned in the total column itself. Let's go on to the last transaction and figure out the total of the purchase book. So the last transaction refers to Con Limited, which from where we have taken 100 skates for amounting of rupees 40,000. That means the total amount has been already mentioned, hence we have already plugged that amount into the totals column. Let's figure out and see how much is the total of the purchase book. Now this is the total of purchase book. We'll highlight that part. This total will be then transferred to the purchase account. Hence, when we prepare a purchase book, the total of purchase book will be always transferred to the purchase account. We'll go through another illustration of my kind whereby you'll have certain trade discounts as well. We'll take certain illustrations, certain examples, and we'll go ahead with that. I'm jotting down that problem for you. You can go ahead and note that down, and in the meantime, we'll go ahead and prepare the illustration and we'll solve that illustration for your reference. Let's go ahead with that part. So we have mentioned down a transaction here. We have mentioned down certain transactions for reference. Let's go through them once again. There is Mrs. ABC, who is a furniture dealer or is a furniture material dealer. We have 4 transactions for our reference. We'll go through each transaction first. On 1st of March, there is purchase of wood for 20,000 with a 10% trade discount. Make sure this amount is recorded properly because there is a 10% trade discount. On 10th of March, there has been certain purchase, and that purchase refers to timber at the rate 60,000. That means the timber was purchased for rupees 60,000. Again, on 15th of March, there is one transaction. Let's go ahead and see what the transaction is. We purchased wall ply at rupees 4,000. That means the total cost of wall ply was 4,000 each. On 30th, we purchased certain transactions, or that means certain wallpaper was purchased here, and that was for an amount of rupees 5,000. So when we speak about all these transactions, they have been taken from Messrs. Woodplast Company. So the name of the supplier is common, that means Woodplast Company. Hence, we'll go ahead and prepare the specific format first, and then we'll post these transactions. Let's go ahead and prepare the format. So we've prepared the format. We'll go with the first transaction, which is referred to 2019 March 1st. Again, in this question, there is no invoice number, hence we will not be mentioning this part. Now we'll be going with the first transaction. 1st of March, there has been some transaction. Let's note that down. The transaction amounted to 20,000. However, the Woodplast company gave us a 10% trade discount, which will be subtracted from the amount. Hence, when we talk about mentioning the amount here, I clearly informed that you have to be very sure about it. So you'll deduct 10% trade discount and then you'll put the amount as 20,000 minus 2,000, which is 18,000. Hence, the amount that will be mentioned in the amount column is 18,000. Let's go ahead with the next transaction. So the next transaction refers to 10th of March, where timber was purchased from Woodplast Company for amounting rupees 60,000 that has been recorded directly, as there is no totaling that has supposed to be done because the total amount was already given. Let's go on to the next transaction for 15th of March. Wall ply was purchased from Woodplast and Company for amount of rupees 4,000, hence that has been directly mentioned. Let's go ahead and record the last transaction down there. Hence, now that we have already recorded all the 4 transactions, we have a total of 87,000 being the total of purchase book. Now, this specific transaction or this specific balance will be further moved to purchase account. So, this is how you prepare the purchase book with 2 different illustrations whereby you can also have trade discount in it. So, when you have trade discounts, make sure all the adjustments are done before posting the amount to the amount column itself. The final amount should always be placed in the amount column and there should be no deviation from that. Hence, when we talk about purchase book preparation, you have to think about 5 columns, mainly date, invoice number. If the invoice number is mentioned in the question, make sure you note down that invoice number, details of the supplier, LF, and amount. All these 5 columns will give you a flawless purchase book preparation. So I hope this is very clear with these 2 illustrations whereby you have simple adjustments and you have dual adjustments where trade discount is already a part of it. So thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned with Ekeeda and keep subscribing to Ekeeda.